Paul, great to see you. Monday morning.
Good morning now, Monday morning. I hope I'm not giving you motion sickness because I'm just walking around as I wait for my car to get serviced and getting my step count up. So hopefully you're not getting seasick.
I'll have to just blank you out for anyone watching on LinkedIn or YouTube.
Okay.
But we'll see. We'll see how we go.
Yep.
But Paul, great to have you back. So it's been a big week, as all weeks are. We're now kind of entering like the dog days of retail. End of financial year sales are over. August is about to kick off, so we kind of got this 3 month lull now
Yeah.
before peak in November, which who knows might even be October this year.
Probably will be. It seems to be getting longer and longer.
Certainly is, certainly is. But some news. Just want to kick off with Sands Drinks, one of the pioneers in the non-alcoholic space. They were probably one of the first ones out of the gate, actually. So I saw recently that they've gone into voluntary administration, citing some challenges from the big boys such as Woolworths and Coles being the reason why. Your take?
Yeah, Irene definitely was one of the early adopters, if not the OG. So paved the way forward, and it's a shame that that's happened. And I hope that the business can continue on. And yeah, she cited obviously the bigger fish. It's always hard, and it's a lesson, I guess. It is always hard when that big end of town comes in and generally does everything cheaper than everybody else, particularly in the alcohol space, even though this is non-alcohol. And I was lucky enough to have Irene on the Wayflyer podcast about 6 months ago. And back then, I remember her saying that she really wanted to differentiate from those big ones, Coles and Woolies and so on. And that seems to have always been on her mind. And it seems that it's sort of hit that business hard. So hopefully that one can be resurrected. But once again, it seems to be kind of one every couple of weeks at the moment now, which is a shame.
Yeah, it certainly is. And another one with Kmart and Target, like two of the mega retail brands in Australia. Yeah, everyone knows Kmart and Target. Recently announcing their merger. Obviously, though they've been owned by Wesfarmers for forever now. Oh, well, not forever, for a while now.
Yeah.
But formally merging to form a single entity now, which I thought was interesting. Not surprising, given Target always seems to be in the news for failing to meet their targets and things like that. But to see the merging seems to me just to be a bit of a cost-cutting move to be able to consolidate a lot of the back-end operations, hopefully create some efficiencies, improve margins, etc. Obviously, both are discounting businesses that rely heavily on low-cost products.
Yeah, it's interesting, isn't it? Because I don't know the difference really between Target and Kmart. I'm sure the avid consumer would absolutely be able to tell me. I mean, I know I'm familiar with some of the brands in Kmart and so on, but I wonder if at times those two businesses actually do cannibalize from each other. That they would have to, right? I mean, people typically will pop into a Kmart and a Target. So there would have to be some cannibalization there. So I wonder if, and I have no insight into this at all, but I wonder if, as you say, Mal, cost saving seems to be the logical one, and I wonder if potentially that means streamlining or downsizing and cutting some stores out. Because again, I don't know, but you would have to assume two very similar businesses in many ways owned by the same operator. You would think there'd be some cannibalization on there. So it sounds like some consolidation could be on the cards.
Yeah, absolutely. Look, I feel that for the last several years anyway, Target. There's always a Target store on the bubble. There's always like you're always seeing news of Target stores being closed left, right, and center. I know that two local ones near me in the last few years have closed as well. So it makes sense from their point of view. Like, why have two separate entities with their own separate operations targeting the exact same type of consumer, the same persona? But I think in the last couple of years, Kmart has really started to establish itself as being a more stylish alternative.
Yeah.
Their range seems to be much better than Target. So hopefully being able to leverage some of that halo effect as well from Kmart potentially to resurrect the Target brand a little bit. But I probably look at this going like in a couple of years' time, one of them is going to be an online only business. I
Yeah,
just
good
don't see any
call.
point in having just like multiple stores targeting the exact same thing.
Not in this environment where retail is, really, really tough, and online continues to grow. You would certainly think those guys can get a little bit better. with their online presence. So yeah, I think that's not a bad call. Or Target probably just pivoting into something completely different, focusing on homewares or something else, because you're right. I think Kmart's developed some great brands, and even for my kids, and you see other kids, that I think it's that Anko brand or something.
Mm-hmm.
You see it absolutely everywhere. They do a great job. So Target's challenge will be to differentiate, which, slight segue here is also our challenge as smaller retailers, to differentiate not only from our competitors but from ourselves. So when you're dropping new ranges that continue to cannibalize your existing ranges, sure, you might see your products, the products you launched do quite well, but at the cost of some of your core products. So I think cannibalization in general is a big thing in e-commerce or in commerce, and we should always be trying to increase our total addressable market, or of course serving our customers and giving them what they want, but trying to find ways to actually grow our addressable market. And cannibalization is a massive concern. And yeah, I think at the very highest level there with Target and Kmart, I would say that's probably occurring.
Yeah. And it's also earnings season in the US, which is one of my favorite times, because you always get to see how all the different tech companies, obviously, my background is in tech and tech startups, in particular Meta. Actually, there was some bad news in that, like Snap reported softer earnings. So their ad revenue, their ad business seems to be in decline. Some of those smaller players like BuzzFeed, et
Yeah.
cetera, are just, I don't even know what their future holds. But Meta, on the other hand, saw a a 12% increase in ad revenue in the last quarter, which is a phenomenal result. Like they've been on a huge tear lately, like we've talked about before. Meta shares have gone from about $99 2 years ago to well over $300 down. So bringing their market cap back up to well over $1 trillion, which is great. And I think a lot of it, when you look at it, is that you see that Mark Zuckerberg seems to have quietly pulled some of the funding away from Reality Labs, which is reporting something like a $20 billion loss over the last year, and funneling that back into developing more in terms of the AI around what's happening on the Meta side. And as an agency owner, and obviously, we're quite heavily involved in Meta as an ad platform, I'm actually really starting to see some really promising results from there. Like where I think there's been a lack of investment in that for a few years, everything got very tactical for a little while. There's actually been more focus on building out really robust algorithms and really robust AI now, which is actually making advertisers' jobs, whether media agencies or brands themselves, a lot more interesting because you can see better results from it, but it's also performing better as well. In terms of their targeting capabilities, in terms of their AI creative abilities, it's been and also just the platforms. I'm finding that I'm probably spending more time on Instagram now than I was a year or two ago.
Yeah, well, I joined Instagram about 4 months ago, so they've got me across the line, kicking and screaming. I'm not on Facebook yet, but I think that's an interesting one. When you told me about those earnings based on, I think it was a revenue up, which means spend is up essentially on Meta, because it hasn't been the easiest quarter for online retailers. So there's been plenty of retailers who have pulled back spend as revenues have dropped, across the world, really, with the cost of living, interest rates, and so on, consumer spend softening. So when you sent me that, I was pretty impressed. I sort of wonder, I wonder where that revenue is coming from. But that's a huge result, and obviously you're much closer to Meta than I am. So with the AI and so on, so it's interesting to see that result. It definitely took me by surprise, because it's probably fair to say, I think, that in online retail over the last quarter or so, it's pretty flat. There's some going great, there's some not, but I would say in the whole it feels pretty flat. So that was a massive, massive piece of news from Meta.
Mm. Look, I think at the end of the day, it's like, you need to get the word out there. You need to let people know about your brand, otherwise how else can you grow? Also in terms of like retaining customers as well. And the fact is that their platform is better than most other ad platforms. Their reach is phenomenal. The investment in technology, like I talked about before, the ability to target across, different platforms, not just Instagram, but also Instagram, Facebook, WhatsApp, outside of the Meta ad network as well. they've got quite phenomenal targeting capabilities, and across different types of creative too. They do speak to a lot of different people. So I'll probably see more of this happening. Meta is, it's the Meta and Google tax, which you unfortunately need to pay. But I think they're doing a much better job at innovating than Google have been, particularly in the last 12 or so months. Where I feel like on the AI front, Google has been a little bit slow. Although I'm seeing some more noise about Bard lately.
Mm. I think as well they make Meta make it so easy to use the platform.
Mm,
So it's not just the big end of town, but certainly when I see startups, the very first place they go to get their brand out there is Meta. It's certainly not AdWords, even though PMax has simplified things quite a bit. It's still a lot harder to use for a startup retailer than
mm.
Meta is. Meta is, you can boost your post, create some pretty good audiences, and away you go. So I think for all their investment in tech, I would say their usability is actually getting better and better as well.
Yeah, 100%. Now, one topic I do just want to close off on today is talking about post-purchase surveys. It's something which I think has come up quite a lot. I know you and I have a few clients who have been talking about doing post-purchase surveys, and it's come up in a couple of conferences as well, with retailers wanting to put up post-purchase surveys to find out more about the customer's intent, their behavior, where they heard about them, all that typical stuff that you often see. Like, where did you hear about us? What made you buy from us today, and things like that. Um, it's something which you and I talk a lot about, the peak end rule, about the importance of those two parts of the transaction when someone purchases and then also someone receives the product. This seems to me to kind of go against that. When someone is at their emotional high when they buy from you, shoving a survey in front of them to find out information about why they bought from you just seems to be like, hang on, like, what a way to kill the buzz.
Yeah, you got to be careful, don't you? Because it's a bit sneaky. I mean, post-purchase emails get around the marketing opt-in rules a little bit, and there are companies out there like I think Navar in the US is great organization, like really clever, and sort of an email as part of the purchase journey doesn't need an opt-in. But you've got to be careful with that because that can really piss people off. So I think it can be overdone. Like I don't know about you, but inboxes are getting harder and harder to sort through, and they can actually be a little bit stressful. So I 100% agree. I got nothing wrong with a net promoter score. I don't know if you need to sell. I don't know if you need to send them to every single customer every single time. A gentle review reminder at the right time, sure. Don't send them out before the customer has their product. But I 100% agree. Like I think you've got to be so careful with your flows. I don't mind one email at the end just to check in and again, if I'm receiving that email, Mal, what I would like that email to focus on is just want to check that you're happy. Here's the number if you need anything, or here's some more information on how to assemble your product, or something useful. I think these constant requests for surveys and so on are just overdoing it. And peak end rule is for anyone who hasn't familiarized themselves with that is basically the idea that the customer experience is defined by its best moment or worst moment. It's rather than a series of nice things, they're an expectation. It's kind of that amazing delivery experience that Amazon gives you on a Saturday or a Sunday, or it's a beautiful unboxing experience, or it's the product that was just delivered, whatever, by hand, or anyway, it's the idea that the CX is more defined by one special moment or one terrible moment. And you're right, these little moments with surveys and so on can chip away at that. So I'm a big believer in just keeping it simple and not too much communication, particularly unnecessary communication.
Yeah, I think if you put the customer first at the end of the day, like, and you got to ask yourself, like, why are you doing this? Like, who benefits from this survey or whatever this communication or whatever you're doing post purchase? Like, does the customer benefit from this, or is it just you? If it's only you who benefit from this, then you really need to ask yourself, is this the right time and place for that to happen? And I
Mm.
think oftentimes you look at it and go, well, it's not, because the customer has just purchased from me. Why do I want to follow up and ask them all these questions, which really only benefit me because they add no value to the customer at all? And for me, if you're always going to look at it as a bit of a North Star, if you put the customer experience first and always put yourself in the customer's shoes, it's kind of hard to go wrong.
Yeah, it is. I think a survey is, in my opinion, best reserved for maybe once a year or something like that, segmented out at certain times. I think people are absolutely overdoing it. And that's a good way to end up in the spam folder. I was thinking recently about a great experience that I had with Clicker. Shout out to Leo, Leo, if you're watching. But I bought a treadmill. This for me was a good customer experience moment. I bought a treadmill, and as I was moving house, the removalists took it apart for some unbeknown reason and reassembled it upside down. Um, so that was annoying. And they lost a bunch of parts. And so I emailed Clicker, and I actually called. I actually made a phone call, and I'd love to remember her name. I think it might have been Jocelyn or something like that, but Joanne. Anyway, I got a phone number. I was like, wow, got it answered. Got a phone. Like, she goes, oh, you've lost that part. I'll send it out for you. That was it. Nothing else. And she sent an SMS from her phone. Presumably, they have some secure way of doing that from her phone. Just checking. You're happy. Everything good. Now that was peak end rule. I was like, wow, I didn't have to fill out a form. I didn't have to do anything else. Spoke to you on the phone, didn't touch my email, got a friendly SMS, job done. That for me was a great example of uncomplicated customer experience and peak end rule defined by like, hey, here's a phone call, here's an SMS. She sent me the part for free. For me, I will always go back to Clicker just for that. And I think that's just simple. Didn't need automations and flows. It just need a good, simple experience. As you say, putting me, the customer, first.
Yeah, fantastic. Leo, if you listen to this, well done, mate.
Yeah, he did a good job. And I didn't reach out to him at all to leverage that. I just went through the channels, and it was so slick and just good basic peak end rule and play.
Yeah, awesome. All right, Paul, that's all we've got time for on this Monday morning. Enjoy the rest of your walk.
My laps around the car park.
Yeah,
Enjoy the rest of your day, Mal. I'm sure we'll speak later in the day.
absolutely. All right, take care.
Okay. Bye.